So I've sort of always been involved in theater and community theater, and I started out very young, when I was like 8 or 9 years old, doing community theater productions with just, my girlfriends. And that sort of segued into an interest in people who have pursued this as a career. So I would read, all these books on acting, whether it was Boleslavsky or Uta Hagen, Meisner, Stanislavski, and that curiosity led me to decide that's what I wanted to pursue as a career. So I knew pretty early on, and so I decided to apply to BFA acting conservatories. And I went and I did my BFA in classical theater, and right after that, while I was doing my BFA, I was living in New York City because the college I went to was in upstate New York, in Westchester. So it was fairly close. And so I would pursue theater jobs and indie film jobs while I was in college. And I really got a taste for what it would be like to work as a professional actor while I was in school. And then when I graduated, it was difficult. Not necessarily because of my ethnicity, but it was difficult because being an actor is difficult. In fact, I actually think in my early years being Asian was of an advantage to me, because that was in a time when casting was more concerned about hiring Asian people or African American people, Latino American people, to be politically correct, not because there was a curiosity in the thing that made them unique. So I definitely was going out for more auditions that were, the best friend or the assistant, to sort of put color around the lead white person's story. And at that time, when you're just graduating school and you get to be on a movie set, that's really fun, and it's great. And then I moved to Los Angeles. The first movie I booked here was an independent feature called Sound of My Voice, which was written and produced by this woman named Britt Marling, who is fantastic, and she was a huge inspiration to me in terms of she had difficulty as an actress, and she's a white, blonde, beautiful actress. And she had difficulty sort of finding her way in the industry, so she created her own content, which is something that it's definitely something that I'm looking forward to doing in the future. And then from there, I just was on the really gritty road of auditioning and rejection for often very superfluous reasons. That's why, you have to not necessarily have a thick skin in this industry, because I think an actor has to maintain a certain sensitivity and vulnerability in order to have actually work that has like a great emotional resonance. So it's not a thick skin you have to have necessarily, but you have to detach yourself from the result, and the result is booking a job. And you have to instead attach to the result, which is going in the room in the audition and really fully realizing the life of this human being that you're trying to portray. And then when you don't get it, it stings a little bit, but you went out there and you did your craft. You did the thing that was meaningful to you. And that took me a long time to really understand, because I used to sort of equate my personal worthiness with employment. And it took me feeling empty over and over again to understand that that's not where the real work lies. And anyone who judges you based on that, they're sort of not your people. So I just kept doing that and shifting my focus, and I found a tribe of friends and colleagues in Los Angeles that sort of had the same set of values. And then, Fresh Off the Boat came to me in terms of like just an audition like any other. And I treated it like any other, comedy or not, which is just to go at it, with as much heart and truth and joy as I could. And then I happened to book it. And there was sort of a spotlight on these issues that I definitely knew were important in terms of Asian representation before, but I didn't have the luxury to sort of think about them because my acting career had sort of before that been about survival and paying bills. And so, that's why what CAPE is doing is so important, because it's an important issue that sometimes I think is overlooked. And the more there's a dialogue about it, I think the more progress that can happen. I feel like it's certainly taken a long time to have more Asian representation in media, and especially on network TV. It's been 20 years. And I think the reason for that is because we have so much more media now. We don't just have, the 4 major networks. We have Amazon, we have Netflix, we have Hulu, Yahoo Original Series, people making their own work on YouTube. And it takes a lot more to capture somebody's attention because they have so many more options now, which is great. And I think that the networks are starting to wisen up to the fact that in order to capture people's attention, you sort of can't necessarily just do the same stuff you've been doing. You have to look for a fresh perspective, a different lens, a different take on life in order to capture an audience's attention in a very saturated field of content. And so that's great, because I think it's definitely going to push the boundaries for all types of creators to have a curiosity for experiences that are different than their own. And in terms of trends in entertainment, I think that is something I am seeing, a curiosity for a different experience. I think in the past, a lot of Asian media has been about sort of neutralizing the Asian. Like, this is an Asian person who could be anybody. They're just a regular American. This is a romantic lead. It doesn't have to do with anybody being Asian, which has its own merit for sure. But I also think that sort of having a curiosity for it and exploring the things that also sets an Asian American apart, that makes their experience different, actually shining a light on that and having some semblance of pride in that specialness is something that audiences are definitely seeking. If we filter ourselves, we can only show our highlight reel, only the great things that happen to us, which I think can lead to a type of social isolation because it stigmatizes difficulty, which is something that everybody goes through. And the more we sort of don't stigmatize that and accept it and actually love that part of ourselves, I think those are the works of art or music or poetry that move people. And I think that's why Fresh Off the Boat is special, because we don't try to make it super PC. So it is a fresh perspective because it's celebrating our differences as opposed to neutralizing it so we can be as cool as other people. We're cool in our own way. If I were to talk to somebody who wanted to get into, I guess, entertainment or theater, I would say that make sure your work is never results-oriented. The result is a byproduct of the work, in a way. So the goal should never be like, I want to be a role model, or I want to win an Oscar, or things like that. This is a hard hump to get over, but it should be to create meaning by getting as close to the truth as possible in everything you do, whether it's the character you play, the choices you make. And that way, even if you never become a role model or you never win any awards, the work in itself is its own reward because you've come from a place of authentic curiosity and compassion and courage and conviction. So many people, I think, go into this looking for these sort of external superfluous rewards such as, financial gain or attention or recognition or even like respect. And the thing is, you can't really control that outcome. So it can end up leaving you very empty inside when you're sort of alone in your room on a Sunday afternoon without all the accoutrements, But if you've always made sure that your work comes from your values, then you don't have that emptiness. because your choices are dictated by a deep sense of who you are. But the biggest thing is if you're already feeling down, don't beat yourself up more for being down. Just being down is part of life, and it's going to go away and it's going to come back. It's going to go away and it's going to come back. So just navigate it with grace and a little bit of courage and use it as an opportunity to find out more about yourself.
I'm doing my best to push myself as an actor and push myself as an Asian American actor to get myself out there and represent the community in a positive way.
Don't be afraid to fail, because failures add character and color, and it's those imperfections and flaws and mistakes that you make along the way that add to a great story.
We just wanted to bring good food to good people. If you love what you're doing, go do it, because if we can do it, like, so can you.
Asian Americans, I'd say, are known as trendsetters on YouTube because there's no barrier to entry.
You just need to find who you are inside and go forward with it and just show the world what you have.
In terms of Asian representation, it's an important issue, and the more there's a dialogue about it, I think the more progress that can happen.
To ask these questions is really important, but what are the answers, and what are you going to do with the answers to these questions that are the most important thing?
I think that's the only way to change anything, is to just take it and change it yourself.